There's a part of you that already feels someone holding back, but you're no longer rushing to make their silence easier to understand. You're watching more closely now, and your hope has become quieter. You may still care deeply, but your current energy is more guarded than before. I keep noticing the bright flowers around a still figure, like warmth surrounding someone who has learned to stand firm. This feels like you wanting love, but not wanting to lose yourself to uncertainty again. You might notice this in one simple moment. They act calm, but their tone becomes careful, and instead of leaning in immediately, you pause before answering. And this is the detail that makes it harder to ignore. You're realizing their restraint is not the same as indifference. They may be waiting for the perfect moment, but you are no longer willing to chase the truth out of them. That small dark companion near the feet feels like your instinct staying close. You're not closed off. You're becoming clearer. And clarity is what keeps you from mistaking delay for devotion. The more you stop chasing clarity, the more aware you become of how carefully this person controls what they say. They'll answer your question, but not the deeper part underneath it. And I keep noticing how fast they redirect the conversation once emotion starts getting too close. There's something about a lowered voice near a sharp silence here, like someone trying to stay composed while holding back far more than they plan to. You may have already felt this during a recent interaction. Eye contact lingers a little too long, their tone softens for half a second, and then suddenly they become practical again. They ask about your day, they mention small things. Anything except the truth sitting underneath the moment. And this is where it starts to get more specific. This person is not confused about how they feel. Their pressure point is control. They are trying to manage the timing, the wording, the risk of saying too much before they know whether they can handle your response. Meanwhile, you're starting to notice how exhausting that restraint feels to sit inside of. A crescent shape behind stillness, white wings held close. This connection hasn't gone cold, but something unspoken is building pressure now, and it's becoming harder for both of you to pretend otherwise. You're starting to notice that the uncertainty has a rhythm now. It does not arrive once and disappear. It comes back in the same places, usually right after a moment that almost feels honest. You pause before reaching out again, not because you stopped caring, but because your body remembers what usually happens next. You open the space, they come close enough to be felt, and then the deeper part is left hanging. That pause is your awareness catching up to what your heart has been trying to soften. There's a feeling here of two figures suspended mid-air, like everything is present, but nothing is fully landing. And that is what makes this heavier. You may have been telling yourself this is just timing, just hesitation, just someone needing a little more space. But this is the part that changes how you see it. Confusion has become a pattern, not a phase. That does not mean the feeling is fake. It means the way it is being handled keeps putting you in a position where you have to guess. A bright doorway beneath the stillness feels like the truth is close, but access is still blocked. So now, your perception is sharpening. You are not imagining the connection. You are recognizing the loop. And once you see the loop, it becomes much harder to keep calling it patience. You try to return to your day, but this person keeps interrupting ordinary moments. You could be cleaning, making something to eat, walking from one room to another, and suddenly your mind goes back to the part they did not say out loud. Not the whole conversation, just that one unfinished place in it. There's a quiet bird resting on a hand here, like a message that has arrived but has not been fully released. And that feels important because what they have not told you yet is not casual. It has weight. It has been sitting with them long enough that you can feel its absence. You might not have noticed it like this before, but their silence is starting to shape the mood of your day. You are not just wondering what they feel. You are noticing how often you have to regulate yourself after being around their restraint. A basket held low, fruit gathered carefully. This feels like someone preparing, but still not offering what they have collected. And that is the hidden confession thread opening here. They have more to say than they have allowed you to hear. But until they bring it forward, you are left carrying the echo of what was almost spoken. That echo is still present, and it is starting to ask for more than patience. You feel the pull, but this time it does not take over as quickly. That is the part that matters. The connection is still there, the unfinished feeling is still there, but your response to it is beginning to change. You notice the urge to chase clarity, and instead of following it immediately, you let the moment breathe. You do not reopen the conversation just to calm the discomfort. You do not rush to make their silence easier for them. You sit with what you know, even if it is not the whole answer yet. There's something here about dark silhouettes above a winding path, like the connection still has shadows around it, but your feet are finding the ground again. And this is where it starts to change how you move. You are beginning to accept that you can care without chasing. That does not make your feelings smaller. It makes your self-respect louder. You can miss the warmth. You can feel the unfinished pull, but you are no longer willing to abandon your pace just because someone else is still deciding how honest they are ready to be. A low sun behind the clouds feels like something is not fully revealed yet, but you are not standing in the same place anymore, and that quiet difference is leading you toward the next truth. Now the focus turns inward, and it is gentle but honest. There is a part of you that has been trying to stay composed by explaining more than you needed to. You may notice it in the way you choose your words. You start with one clear feeling, then suddenly add more reasons, more context, more softness, because some part of you is afraid the truth will be misunderstood. It is not that you are weak. It is that you have been trying to protect the connection from tension before knowing whether it can actually hold honesty. There's a mirror-like flash near the hands here, and patterns looping back through the vines. Something about this feels familiar, like you have done this before without fully realizing it. And this is where it starts to make more sense. Over-explaining has been your way of trying to stay safe. If you can make your feelings sound reasonable enough, maybe they will not pull away. Maybe the moment will not become too heavy. But now you are catching yourself sooner. You feel the urge to soften the truth, and for 1 second you pause. That pause matters. It means you are beginning to recognize that your needs are not the problem. And once you see that, the old pattern cannot lead you as blindly anymore. What becomes more obvious now is how often temporary closeness pulls you back into hope. They show up with warmth, with attention, with a moment that feels almost undeniable, and then the connection returns to uncertainty before anything is fully named. You may feel calm for a moment, and then one small sign from them pulls your whole attention back to the unfinished place. Not because you are trying to be dramatic, because your heart recognizes the possibility before your mind has proof. There's a path circling back in this image, and something dark moving across the light. That feels like the emotional rhythm between you. movement, pause, return, silence. And this is what makes the pattern harder to ignore. Their feelings may be real, but the way they appear in fragments keeps restarting your hope before clarity has arrived. It keeps you emotionally available without letting you feel secure. That is why this matters now. You are beginning to understand that intensity is not the same as stability. A powerful moment can still leave you waiting afterward, and if this continues, vague signs may no longer feel like enough. You may still feel the pull, but your body is starting to ask for something steadier than almost something more honest than returning without explaining why. You stop turning one small sign into a full promise, and that is where the meaning begins to land differently. The warmth is still real when it shows up, but now you are separating that warmth from the consistency you have been waiting for. Before, you may have questioned yourself after every uncertain moment. Maybe you wondered if you were too sensitive, too guarded, or asking for something too direct. But now, you are starting to see that the confusion did not come from your intuition being wrong. It came from inconsistency. There's a figure holding steady among raised wands, like someone trying to stand their ground while surrounded by pressure, and that feels connected to what has blocked this confession. This person may have feelings, but they are also defending themselves against the vulnerability those feelings would require. And this is why it never fully made sense before. They were giving you enough emotion to feel the bond, but not enough honesty to feel safe inside it. A bright flame behind the tension feels like truth trying to rise through resistance. So your perspective is changing. You are not blaming yourself for needing clarity anymore. You are recognizing that your need for steadiness was not pressure, it was information. And now that you see that, the next moment between you cannot be read the same way. You stop treating uncertainty like an emergency, and that is the first sign of release. The situation is still unfinished, but it no longer demands your whole nervous system every time something feels unclear. You feel the old pull to understand everything right now, and instead of moving toward it immediately, your breathing steadies. You let the silence exist for a moment without rushing to solve it, explain it, or turn it into proof of what they feel. There's a lantern held in the dark here, like light entering a quiet space. And that feels like the part of you that is beginning to release the need to control how quickly clarity arrives. Before, a delay could make your mind run ahead, trying to predict what this meant, what they felt, what might happen next. Now, the delay is still uncomfortable, but it does not collapse you into fear the same way. And this is what starts to open room for a calmer response. You can hear your own intuition without panic talking over it. A door easing open in the shadows feels like movement is near, but not forced. Something may still be coming toward you, but you are not standing there gripping the outcome. You are quieter now, steadier now. And that is exactly why the next truth can reach you differently. You allow one unanswered feeling to exist without forcing it into an answer, and that tells me you are not in the same emotional place anymore. The question is still there, but it is not pressing against you the way it used to. You might still think of them, still feel that unfinished pull, but now there is a small space between the feeling and your reaction. You do not rush to explain it. You do not immediately reach for certainty. You let the moment be incomplete without making it mean you are powerless. There's something here like standing in a dim hallway with light cutting through the dark. And this is where something quietly changes in you. You are beginning to understand that you do not have to chase clarity in order to trust what you feel. That becomes the anchor. Their silence does not get to decide your worth, and their timing does not have to become the center of your peace. But there is still another layer underneath. Something about this delay has been waking up a deeper part of you, not just about them, but about what you are ready to stop carrying alone. A quiet doorway beneath the shadows feels like the message has not fully spoken yet. Let's look deeper now, because there is something the oracle needs to reveal about what is still unfolding beneath this. You return to your day now without checking the emotional temperature of the connection every few minutes, and that is more important than it first appears. You make something to eat, fold laundry, walk outside for air, and somewhere in the middle of an ordinary moment, you realize the situation is no longer controlling the entire room inside you. The feeling is still there, but it is no longer pulling every part of your attention toward it. A softer space opening around the pressure feels connected to this. You are starting to choose steadiness over urgency, even if part of you still waits for proof sometimes. And this is the part you may not have fully seen yet. Your body has been asking for peace longer than your mind was willing to admit. That is why silence does not control you the same way anymore. Before, uncertainty could consume the whole day. Now, even when the old pattern brushes against you, you notice it without immediately disappearing into it. There is still care here. There is still something unfinished underneath the connection. But the way you are carrying it has changed enough that new understanding can finally begin reaching you from a calmer place. You return to the same small routine again, maybe tidying a counter, making tea, or moving through the room, and the thought of them still enters the moment. This time, though, it does not take over as fast. You notice the pull before it becomes a spiral, and that tiny pause shows you something important. A mirror softened by mist feels like you are seeing your own reaction more clearly now. This is why the repetition feels different. You are noticing the difference between caring and carrying everything. Part of you still wants proof, and that is human. Part of you still wonders whether stepping back will make the truth disappear. But you are not abandoning yourself just to keep the connection close. You are protecting your peace without announcing it, without turning it into a performance, without needing them to understand it immediately. The same feeling returns, yes, but it meets a different version of you now. And that is why this is not random. The pattern is still showing up, but it is also showing you how much less willing you are to disappear inside it. You feel the urge to explain yourself again, but this time you let the moment breathe before turning your feelings into a full defense. That is where the click happens. You realize your quietness was not coldness. It was your body trying to stop you from carrying the emotional weight alone. This is where it starts to make sense. You were not becoming detached. You were becoming more honest with yourself. A softer truth appearing beneath the surface feels connected to this, like something you already knew finally rising where you can see it. Before, you may have thought pulling back meant you were losing the connection or proving you cared less. Now you can feel the difference. You still care, but you are not confusing care with the responsibility to keep everything alive by yourself. And once you see that, you cannot fully return to the old version of waiting. The feeling is still present, but your relationship to it is changing in a way that quietly stays with you. You let silence sit without rushing to fix it, And for the first time, it does not feel like you are abandoning the connection. It feels more like you are staying with yourself. You notice the urge to explain, to smooth things over, to make the moment easier to read. But the urge passes faster than it used to. This is where you notice the difference. You are no longer trying to earn clarity through over-explaining. A quiet horizon opening feels connected to this, like your inner world has more room than the situation was letting you remember. The care is still there, but it is not running your whole response. You can feel tenderness without letting it become responsibility. You can feel the unknown without making it your fault. And that matters because you are beginning to trust your own pace even before the outside situation fully catches up. This is not forced distance. This is the part of you that has finally stopped confusing urgency with love. You move through the evening without replaying every unfinished moment the way you used to, and somewhere between putting something away and sitting down to rest, you notice the quiet is no longer pressing against you. The feeling still visits, but it does not take over the whole room inside you anymore. Like still water clearing, there is more space between the connection and your reaction to it now. You can care without circling the same uncertainty for hours. You can miss someone without abandoning your own rhythm in the process. The old pull is still there, but it does not lead you the same way. That is the part that stays. You did not lose the feeling. You stopped losing yourself inside it. And because of that, the waiting no longer carries the same emotional weight it once did. There is less urgency in your body, less need to solve everything immediately, even if part of you still wonders how the story fully ends. You do not need to prove that you have changed. You can feel it in how you respond now. Not loudly, but clearly enough. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I know these readings can land in very personal places, so just take what truly resonates with your situation and leave the rest. Not every message is meant for everyone, and that's completely okay. I really appreciate your energy, your presence, and the quiet trust it takes to sit with a reading like this. If this felt connected to where you are right now, you're always welcome back for the next one. Take care of yourself tonight, and I'll see you in the next reading.